No matter how dark things seem to be, or how desperate it seems, there is something you should know. Let the love of God still flows. God answers prayer. You need to know He's always there. When you stand in faith and pray, believing, trust in God and you start receiving, to know how much He cares. God answers, oh God answers, God answers prayer.
Jeremiah 33:3 says, "Call unto me, and I will answer thee, and I will show thee great and mighty things thou knowest not."
Join us now to hear great and mighty things that have happened in the lives of people who have been changed through our Lord Jesus as they share their testimonies of how God answers prayer.
Welcome to God Answers Prayer. I'm Linda Tiano, your host, and we're delighted to have you join us today. I have a scripture that's found in Jeremiah 33:3. It's a favorite scripture, as all of them are. But call to me, and I will answer you, and I will tell you, and even show you great and mighty things which have been confined and hidden, and which you do not know and understand and cannot distinguish. Rosanne and Phil Archuletta met in 2008 through their volunteer work at the New Mexico Small Business Development Centers. But that's only the tip of the iceberg of their stories, and now their story. Both have tremendous backgrounds, the greatest of which is their personal relationship with the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. We are honored and delighted to have them here with us today on God Answers Prayer. We'll be right back after this.
Imagine holding a piece of biblical history in your very own hands. Now you have an opportunity to do just that. Temple Mount stones have been recently excavated and are about to be discarded. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity enables you to hold a piece of sacred history. A Temple Mount stone, or as we call it in Hebrew, Evan, was a silent witness to the events that have shaped our faith. As Abraham was binding Isaac, when he heard the voice of an angel calling to him, "Abraham, Abraham, do not lay your hand on the lad or do anything to him." A few hundred years later, this same Evan saw Jesus cleansing the temple from peddlers and money changers. It is written, "My house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves." Soon after, Evan witnessed the fulfillment of the destruction prophecies. "I will lay your cities waste and bring your sanctuaries to desolation." And recently, the fulfillment of the redemption prophecies as well. He will set up a banner for the nations and will assemble the outcasts of Israel. And just when everything looked so peaceful, excavations were carried out and displaced Evan from its historic location. In Luke 19:40, it says, "The rocks will cry out." Through your efforts, these ancient stones can be rescued from being discarded or destroyed, while you have the assurance you've helped preserve sacred history. Become an Evan Guardian.
Well, welcome. I'm here on the set with Phil and Rosanne Archuletta by the grace of God. And they're with P&M Signs Incorporated out of Mountain Air, New Mexico. It's good to have you.
Good to be here.
Lovely to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Well, let's find out a little bit about you for our audience. And this is God Answers Prayer, and He answers prayer in so many ways. But the first and best way He answers for us is how He draws us to Him in the first place. So, Rosanne, tell us your story. How did you come to know Yeshua, Jesus?
I was raised in just a beautiful home. My mother was a devout Catholic. And I'll never forget, and if you've never done this, you should look at this with your children. We would pray each night. There were four of us, four children, at each other's bed. We'd go to each other's bedrooms and pray. and we would have Jesus kneeling with us. And so for me, Jesus was like my brother my entire life. So that's where it all started. And then, as I grew up and got into all kinds of shenanigans, I feel that relationship that never waned kept me safe in some, again, making some bad choices. And so then as my life progressed, we'll talk about Phil and I had never gotten married, and then I meet Phil, who's a very devout person, who took me, the two of us together have gone to an entirely different place of deepening. So that's been my journey with Jesus.
Ah, beautiful. And Phil, how about you?
Well, I got brought up Catholic. I went to catechism when I was in grade school, and you know how those nuns are. They make sure you know about Jesus.
All right.
So I got brought up with my mother, who was a very devout Catholic, and I learned how to read from the Bible. And when I was 13 years old, I got stranded in Alamosa, Colorado, and I was sleeping in a alley and inside a box, and I gave my life to Jesus then. And I ended up in Salida, Colorado with my grandfather. And I spent all my teenage years over there in Salida, Colorado. It was a very beautiful time of my life because I went to school over there, and then I ended up working at the railroad in the extra gang. And I have been working all my life. And Jesus has been a great part of all of my life in everything that I've done. Yeah. So I truly believe in him, and everything that I've done has something to do with him. So that is my story of how I came to Jesus. But I was 13 years old when I gave my life to Jesus.
Wow. It's in unexpected places and times
Yes.
that he makes himself known to us, and it marks us.
Yeah, and when we wrote my memoir, the whole story of how I ended up in Alamosa, Colorado is in my book. So it's a very interesting early life that I had when I was just a little boy.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll have to talk about the book a little bit later too.
Yes.
So now you came back to New Mexico at some point, though, right?
I came back to New Mexico when my grandfather passed away. I was not quite 18, and I ended up back in El Rito, where I grew up as and where I was born. And then from El Rito, I ended up in Arizona at the Grand Canyon, and then I came back to El Rito, and then I got married back then, and then I ended up in California working at the General Motors plant in California. And
wow.
So, and then from there I came back to Ojo Caliente, and I started the business of Ojo Caliente Craftsman, and I went 20 years there, and I built one of the biggest corporations ever built in northern New Mexico in Ojo Caliente, called Ojo Caliente Craftsman. I had 65 employees, and I ran a payroll of 35,000 every 2 weeks. Wow. So it was an amazing time.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's wonderful. So I know you're in Mountaineer now. When did you move, and why?
Well, I made one of the biggest mistakes of my life. I decided to run for Congress against Bill Richardson in 1990. And because I got in an argument with Bill Richardson in Washington, D.C., because, I was in the with the Small Business Administration. They were giving me an award up over there, and I couldn't ever convince him to support small businesses in the state of New Mexico, and I was very involved in creating jobs in the state of New Mexico, and so therefore I got in an argument with him, and he challenged me up over there, and I told him, okay, I'm going to run against you, and I did. But by the time it was all over, me and my partners and my family over there, we were all at odds with each other. And I, because I went in Ojo Caliente, I went from rags to riches, and I built something out of nothing. And then by the time it was all over, I only owned 1/3 of the corporation, and I got thrown out. And I ended up in Mountain Air with $300 in my pocket and started all over again and rebuild the company up over there and got all my contracts back and put everybody back to work. And so I got a bunch of employees up in Mountain Air, New Mexico now with my company, P&M Signs, our company.
And God's such a great restorer. He restores what, the enemy tries to, what the enemy has tried to destroy. He will come back and bring something even greater.
Well, it appears like I had a hook on my, God had a hook on me, and he pulled me out of Ojo Caliente and brought me to Mountain Air, where I started all over again, and he gave me the knowledge and courage to rebuild again and make myself back to where I was over there at Ojo, and in some cases even better.
Yeah, so. And P&M Signs, P and M. You have a lot of contracts here in the state for signs.
Well, P&M stands for Phil and Mabel. My sister Mabel in El Rito, and her husband Lisandro, and their little boy named Lee. They had the confidence on me, and they backed me up, and we went into business together. So P stands for Phil, and M stands for Mabel.
Okay.
That's why it's P&M. And so anyway, I built it back up again, and I got 3 statewide contracts for all state agencies. I got the GSA contract for all federal agencies to manufacture. I manufacture signs for the entire country. And for the New Mexico DOT, we built something with like 60 to 80% of all signs going out in New Mexico. I have something to do with them. And then I got the franchise for Smokey Bear out of Washington, D.C. Yeah. So all the fire danger rating signs that get manufactured and that you see when you see Smokey Bear in the side of the road that you're going, that comes from our manufacturing plant.
That's wonderful.
So. And last but not least, the historical markers.
Oh, yes.
Which we have 2 books, and the 3rd one coming out in first quarter on the history of New Mexico based on the historical markers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
He's been making the markers for 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah, only 3 people have been involved in the historical marker project in the state of New Mexico. That's a guy named Sostenes and another guy named Isidoro Lucero, who was my cousin, and me. We're the only 3 that have ever been involved in the historical marker project in the state of New Mexico. So I've got historical markers all over the state. And, I've made the first book, Traveling New Mexico, back in 2003. And then me and my wife, Rosanne, here, we made the other one, Women Marked for History. Because the women's got upset because the history that we had in the state of New Mexico were all men, and they said that they were very colorful men, and that the women's wanted their stories out in the roads of New Mexico as well. So they met at my friend Linda Davis's ranch in Cimarron, who was Beverly Duran, Alexis Gerard, and Beverly Duran. And they brought it to the legislature in Santa Fe, and I went to help them out. And the legislators were all jumping over each other to satisfy the women, and so they elected to put 80 stories out with 64 markers. And of course, I had the contract to do that, so I manufactured them and put them all over the state. And now it's a line item with the state of New Mexico, so they're funding women's markers all over the state. Yes.
Yeah. It takes both.
Yeah, and they said, well, we were there cleaning the pots and pans and washing their clothes and helping settle New Mexico back in them days, and we can't see why the only ones that are getting any kind of stories told about them are the men. The women were there too, so we want our stories told. So they're all over the state now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Rosanne, so tell us about your life up until you met Phil.
Oh, my goodness. So anyway, I worked in financial services, and in 1989, I was doing recruiting of financial advisors. In 89, I decided to do it on my own, and I was in San Francisco. Went through a program to help me learn how to be a small business owner. There's a couple places where Phil and I connect. One is clearly God, and then secondly, we are entrepreneurs. Okay, so I started my business in 89. Dated, had a lot of fun, started traveling the world because I could. I've spoken in Beijing at the women's conference. I've done all kinds of things in my life. However, I never got married. And I just went, I never forget my mother, I didn't mention she's Italian devout Catholic. Another country, where's the husband, Anyway, so make a long story short, when I was 49 years old, I woke up and said, it's time for me to become more fiscally responsible, because I wasn't being so, and buy a house, which you couldn't in San Francisco. And so I looked around, I looked at Scottsdale, and I looked at Santa Fe. And Santa Fe particularly was the right place, because in Pennsylvania, where I grew up, it was a tiny town, but it was an hour and a half to Manhattan and an hour and a half to Philly. So we were raised in a small town, but we had cultural opportunities. And so Santa Fe, I loved it. It was the right place for me. So I come, but the problem for me was there weren't the entrepreneurs that I was used to. And so I found the Small Business Development Center, which supports small business. Went in, started volunteering. I was like a little kid, let me help you. And through that, about a year and a half into my work, the head of the program in Santa Fe said, would you like to be on our board? We have a statewide board. And Phil had been on the board of the SBDC, 30 years. He was like a founding father of the Small Business Development Center. So it was my first board meeting and his 100th, and that's where we met. So yeah, that's my journey.
And so you met in 2008.
Yes.
And a romance developed.
Yes, initially, I was networking. I have to tell you this part. When he walked into the room, he was late. He's never late. This is a God thing too. He's always early for things. He came in 10 minutes late, and I had already been trying to, get to know people and everything. And it wasn't an overly friendly crowd, which I was surprised about, because I'm used to, people receiving me well, generally. And so I sat down and I talked to God, because I talk to God all the time, and I said, okay, I know I'm supposed to be here, but I'm not sure what's going on. I don't feel like I'm being really well received. He walks in. They all stand up. They start clapping. And then they tell who he is and the contributions he's made in the state. And when would you meet your future husband to his bio? I think that's incredible. And so that's what happened. So I couldn't get near him because everybody wanted to have lunch with him, wanted to have dinner with him. But the next morning, we're both early people. We were the only ones in the room. And I walked up to shake his hand, and I said, Mr. Archuletta, I'm Rosanne Roberts, I'm new to the council. And he said, no, I think he said something like, you're very intelligent. Like, one of his first remarks was that I was smart, which I loved hearing that. Then he looked at my ring finger and said, are you seeing anyone? Which really surprised me. And I said, no, I'm dating, but anyway, next thing you know, we're having lunch at La Fonda that Saturday. And it was the beginning.
And you married, 2 years later?
Yeah, it was he proposed at month 4. And I said, I've been dating since I was 13 years old, which is true. I said, 6 months minimum. Everybody's on their best behavior, but it's 6 months. And it was Holy Thursday. And we were at Bien Shore Restaurant at Sandia, and there was a big moon behind us. I come back from the restroom, Phil's on his knees on the floor next to the window. and he proposed. And I said, oh, I have to say yes. But I want a long engagement because I've never been married. I want to just enjoy. And we had everything from the engagement to the wedding weekend. It was everything I ever dreamed of. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And he's been wonderful
Yeah.
ever since.
It's been a wonderful time, and you know, it doesn't look like it's been that
12
many,
years.
12 years. It just went by just so fast.
So fast.
November 13th is our 12 years.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're almost, our anniversary just
Yeah.
right around the
Oh,
corner
yeah.
here.
It's a miracle. You know, that we'd even meet, we're so different. But as I say, the two core things that just cemented this.
right. And you had a long distance marriage for a while too, right?
Yes, I was working in San Diego. I had the house in Santa Fe, and then Phil was in Mountain Air. So we sold the house in Santa Fe in the fall of 2020. So we only started living together like 10 years into our marriage, really living together. And I always say, thank God, I really love this man, and I really like this man. You know, we're doing really well.
That's wonderful. Well, I know we're going to be talking about a lot more things in your lives. It's really an honor and a privilege for me personally to have you here, to hear your story, because you both of you have made a lot of difference, and you've been very influential in, especially in the political realm, I would say, with your support of candidates, and it's. You know, there's not a lot of people out there like you. So
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you. And you know, today as we're sharing, just want you to know that we do have prayer partners, and we would love to have the honor of praying with you. If you feel down, dejected, like you're all alone, I'm here to say you're not alone. We will pray with you. We will pray the Word of God with you. And so give us a call, 505-345-4165. And it's an honor and a privilege. We're going to be right back with more with Phil and Rosanne right after this.
Are you feeling lost and alone? Maybe you're feeling closed off from the world right now. Do you live with little hope? Our prayer partners are here with a word of encouragement and to lift you and your needs up before the Lord. Please reach out today by calling 505-345-4165. We care about you. Call 505-345-4165.
Hello, everybody. I'm Maurice Brown. Catch me every week right here on KCHF TV in New Mexico for the Maurice Brown Show, Breaking Down the Four Walls. It's a panel of Christian comedians having a Bible study relating the Word of God to how we're going to navigate on stage in the world of comedy. You don't want to miss it. It's informative, but most importantly, it's a lot of fun. Every week, right here on KCHF TV in New Mexico.
Well, we're back with Phil and Rosanne Archuletta, and we were just hearing their story about how they met, how they came to the Lord, and about their businesses. And so now, here we go. I know that one of the things that you really wanted to share with people is the goodness and the faithfulness of God. So something happened to you, Phil, that set a lot of things in motion. Tell us about that.
Well, we were encouraged also just having a really good time, signing books and meeting a lot of people from Capitan, Alamogordo, and everywhere on Friday and Saturday on November 5th and 6th. And on the 7th, we came back home to Mountain Air, and I went out to the yard, because we have, I made a really beautiful yard for Rosanne, by the way. And it's like an oasis. So I went out there and I told Rosanne, well, I'm going to go out there and sit down and just relax for a little bit. And she said, okay. So I went up over there and I got myself a cold bottle of water, and I was just sitting there for the longest time. And then all of a sudden I got a really sharp pain on my hip. And I said, I thought, because we got chairs with metal on the side, and I said, I wonder why I got such a sharp pain on my hip. And so I went inside and I told Rosanne, well, I got this really sharp pain on my hip, and it really hurts. I don't know why it's hurting like that. And so I didn't think nothing off of it. I took some aspirins and sat down for a while, and then that night when we went to sleep, because we go to sleep about 15 after 9 every night. So we go to sleep, and about a couple of hours later, I woke up with a pain still on my hip, and I decided I was going to the bathroom, and when I was going to the bathroom, I stumbled and I fell. And I said, well, what the heck's going on? I told her, I said, what's going on? And I told him, well, I can't move my foot. I said, why? Why can't you move your foot? I said, I don't know, I can't move it. It just won't move. So I came on back, and we were worried sick about it because, you know, it was just like it was dead, the bottom part of my foot. And so we made an appointment about it. We didn't make an appointment, nothing. We got in the car and we went to urgent care in Santa Fe. And so they took me in there in urgent care, and they asked me the first thing they asked me, well, did you injure yourself or anything? No, I haven't done anything. I said, but my foot is dead. So they took me inside to get x-rays, and I took x-rays, and no, all my bones and my foot is perfectly normal. There's nothing wrong with it. And they said, well, you're going to have to go to a orthopedic center or something like that to find out what's wrong. How come you couldn't move your foot? So from there we came back to Mount Air, and it's a good thing that Rosanne knew people in Albuquerque at the orthopedic center. And she called up over there, and they got me in right away to find out what was wrong with me. So they went in there, and they says, well, what you have is drop foot. I said, drop foot? Well, how do people get drop foot? I said, well, it happens to most athletes. They get injured on their knees and on their head, they get drop foot. And I said, have you been injured? No, I haven't been injured at all. At least not since '95, I haven't been injured at all, and there was nothing wrong with me. So they said, well, more than likely it's coming from your back. It's got to be one of the discs on your back is probably pinching the nerve that's coming down to your foot. So I said, okay. I said, well, but since the pain is in your hip, let us give you a shot there, and what's the shot called?
Shot, they did that
a steroid shot. And they said, that's probably going to clear it up. So they gave me the steroid shot, and I went home. It didn't do nothing to me. So I said, well, you know, it's not doing nothing. So she called back up over there, and they got me with another doctor, and they went up over there and said, well, we have to take a MRI of you. So they took an MRI of my back and everything, and says, well, I think we're going to have to give you back surgery. It's got to be one of the nerves that's pinching in there. And so we went from that all the way till March, doctor to doctor to doctor. And finally, the foot and ankle doctor, one of the doctors there that was examining me, said, well, before we give you back surgery, and they were already scheduling me for back surgery, and I said, oh, no, back surgery will probably leave me crippled or something like that at my age. So they said, well, before we do that, we have to give you a nerve test from your hip down to your foot to see if it's really your back or if it's not your back. So they gave me a nerve test. I've never had anything. They stuck needles all the way down, and then they put electrodes on it, and I could feel the electricity going through my through my nerves. And then the good news is that he said, no, it's not your back. It's from your knee down. Wow. And they said, well, we're going to have to...
They did the MRI of the knee next.
They took an MRI of my knee, and they found out that this nerve over here, what's it called?
The peroneal nerve.
Peroneal nerve was entrapped. Oh. And that was in March.
Well, I want to just say one thing. You don't know what we were going through for those 5 months because Phil will not take pain medication. He's northern New Mexican, all natural. So every night, for months, 2 o'clock in the morning, he could no longer sleep in bed. His leg was spasming. I can't even tell you. He's wearing a brace. He had to be fitted for a brace, and he's walking with crutches. this is this, just, I couldn't believe what we were going through. And in the end, it did so many things in our marriage to see him not be angry all the time. I mean, pain for 5 months would impact anyone in a really negative way, but he kept his faith and belief, and just we walked through it together. This could have gone a different direction. Sure. And I'm really aware of that, and it was a beautiful thing, even though it was the worst thing that ever happened to us. So anyway, you weren't saying enough about the pain and suffering.
In back of my mind, I thought I was going to stay crippled for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I really thought that I wouldn't be able to walk again. And so I kept the faith, and we kept walking through it, and away we went on it until finally they found out what was wrong with me, and there was only 3 doctors around the country that could do that kind of surgery.
That's what we were told. Someone in St. Louis, someone in Minnesota, and someone in Georgia. But then the other thing we didn't mention, we had this banging sound behind us. Everyone we saw said every day his foot is not operating properly, the chance of his nerve coming back is slim to none. So there was a time constraint that we were so scared about too.
Yeah, because if we didn't get to it, chances are that I would have to live like that the rest of my life with the function of my feet. People don't even think about their feet. Because you go over there at night, you take a shower, you get on your pajamas, you go to sleep. The next morning you get up, you put your pants on and your socks and your shoes, and away you went. You don't even think anything about your feet. And it brings awareness back how important your limbs are.
Yes.
Because if you lose even a hand, or you lose a foot, or you lose something, it is miserable to be without being able to function with your feet or with your hands or with anything like that. And you just don't think about those kinds of things until something like this happens to you, and you bring awareness about just how important God made all your limbs to be able to function as a human being.
Well, and then we had seen every doctor you could see. So I called Medicare and I said we had exhausted the doctors, and the woman, who was she? Another God person. Keep going, she said. Keep going, don't give up. Get a whole new group of people. So I did with that coaching. And so we ended up seeing a doctor who none of these doctors did this surgery. As we said, it was a specialty for out of state. But we found a doctor who specialized in carpal tunnel upper body. And he just happened to tell us he had seen this and knew what it was. He had done like 6 of these operations. Really? And we were worried, is he an answer to our prayer? Or after all this 5 months of struggle, or is he a miracle? We couldn't decide. We were trying to decipher as he's talking. And then he said he had an opening that next Thursday, which scared us to death. Because why does he have an opening when nobody else can see us for months? But he was the guy. And that's when we started the prayer that Jesus would do the surgery. We had all of our prayer partners praying this. Jesus would take this surgeon's hands, and Phil really loves St. Jude. He would be in the room, the Saint of the Impossible, with us. And that's what led us to the surgeon, who shouldn't have been the surgeon.
Anyway, he goes in there. They take me into the surgery room, and they couldn't put me under. And I kept seeing them there in the room saying, he won't go to sleep. And so they kept, give him more gas. Well, we're giving back. He won't go to sleep. And all of a sudden, I wake up, and I thought that I hadn't gotten surgery or anything like that. And I wake up and I tell him, because there was people all the way around me, and I says, well, when are you going to do the surgery? And it says, sir, you're already in recovery. It's all over. And then in walked the doctor in there, and in walked Rosanne. And then, well, the doctor said that there was no way I was going to move my foot within 3 to 4 months anyway.
Yeah, in pre-op, he gave all the disclaimers. It was going to be 3 to 5 months before he had any less pain. and probably 6 months to a year before he could move his foot.
Oh.
And I just stood up and I said, "Doctor, we know you're the right surgeon." I did. I declared it. And this is the right surgery. He stopped with the disclaimers. But then he came in pre-op.
In
Post-op.
he walked in and he said, "Well, I don't, don't be disillusioned if you can't move your foot." And I said, "Well, my foot's moving."
Yeah.
First time in 5 months that my foot was moving.
Right after
And
surgery?
Right
Right
after
after
surgery, I said,
surgery.
"Look,
Wow.
my foot is moving." And he said, "Wow." He was just totally blown away by it. He said, "I can't believe it. It's been 5 months that I hadn't had any feeling or anything in my foot, and there I was moving my foot."
So now there's going to be another part of this story, but how you're still recovering?
Well, I'm about 95% there now.
Good.
After all of these. And, I do a lot of mountain climbing.
Oh.
And I got a mission up in Taos that requires me to be in the mountains. And so therefore, I'm already starting to even walk really fast and starting to run. And so I'm about 100% there almost. I'm just right
we
around
have
the
to give
corner.
a shout out to physical therapy.
Yes.
They, those
yeah.
people are saints.
They are.
And they've made
Yes.
all the difference.
Yeah.
But he also follows instructions.
Yes. Well, and I have to say kudos to you with regard to medications, because they slow down recovery. They really do when you take all that stuff.
Oh, I can't
It takes,
take it.
it takes your body a while to recover from what they gave you.
Yeah.
So
The
yeah.
strongest medicine I take is aspirin, and I will not take anything else. I have never done drugs in my entire life. I do very little alcohol drinking, have a beer every once in a while, but other than that, I've never had any kind of drug whatsoever in my body.
So, all the while, now you guys had been great fans of The Chosen, right? You
Yes.
started watching it from the beginning.
Not from the beginning.
Not from the
I
beginning.
heard about it from a friend of mine
Okay.
in New Jersey. Called me one day, maybe 6 months into The Chosen starting, screaming in the phone because he and his wife know us, and he said, "You two have to stop everything and tonight start watching this." That's where it started.
Yeah.
So we've been in, almost 2 years or whatever now.
And so you were already watching that when all this happened with Phil,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so there was an act of faith that you took.
Yes.
Well, how we got involved with The Chosen, it was in December, and I was paralyzed. I couldn't walk. So I told Rosanne, I got some stock in Tesla that was about $1,100. And I tell her, "I need my money, take it out." And she said, "Well, what are you going to do with your money?" I said, "I'm going to take it and I'm going to send it to The Chosen to help them film the story of Jesus, to get it out there." And she said, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And I said, "Yes, take it out, I want it." So she went and she brought me my money back, and I put it in the bank, and we called up over there and made arrangements and sent them $1,000 up over there to do The Chosen. And I wasn't expecting anything from it.
Right.
I gave it the time in hopes that Jesus would give me a miracle and bring me my foot back. So that's why I did that. And well, you can see I can move my feet and I can walk and run, and
Yes.
it is just an amazing thing.
Well,
See,
and
so-
they had offered this program because they were going to film the feeding of the 5,000.
Yes.
And so what they did was they said, "Look, if you do donate this much, you'll be put into somewhat of a lottery." We understand, and I've never heard it from Chosen people. I've heard it as more of a rumor, but, so I don't know for sure. But we heard that like 200,000 people sent in money to be considered to be extras during the filming of the feeding of the 5,000. What they ended up doing, because so many people wanted to participate, 5,000 came on a Tuesday in June and 5,000 came on a Wednesday. So there were actually 10,000 people that showed up in Dallas to be extras from 38 countries. Doesn't that just excite you? The whole world was there. Anyway, but we never knew if we could go because of Phil's in a brace and on crutches. He couldn't go.
So Rosanne says, well, what do I do? Because they gave us the opportunity to do that. And I said, well, they're going to put it in the lottery. So what are the chances that they're going to get us? I'll be dagnam if they didn't pull my ticket. And we were in. And then Rosanne says, well, what do we do now? And I said, well, book us. Get the airline tickets and get the hotel, get everything set up. And she says, well, what if we can't go? And I said, well, at the last minute, we'll cancel. That's what we're going to do. And so therefore, she went and she booked us and she got us all set up. And not knowing that we were going to be able to go until March when they gave me the surgery. And I mean, it was just one heck of an experience because I was so excited.
We're going to hear more about that.
Yes.
And wow, those of you watching, that's how faith works. You call those things that be not as though they are. And you just begin to declare what you desire to see happen. And then watch God move mountains to make it happen. So we're going to be right back with Phil and Rosanne after this message.
Are you feeling lost and alone? Maybe you're feeling closed off from the world right now. Do you live with little hope? Our prayer partners are here with a word of encouragement and to lift you and your needs up before the Lord. Please reach out today by calling 505-345-4165. We care about you. Call 505-345-4165.
KCHF TV 11 is looking to fill an administrative assistant position. This person would be responsible for performing clerical tasks within an office setting to support daily operations of the ministry. Duties include answering phones, greeting visitors, creating and maintaining filing system, and more. This position requires working knowledge of Microsoft Office programs, including Excel, Word, and Outlook. For more information or to apply, go to kchftv.org/jobs. That's kchftv.org/job.
We're back with Phil and Rosanne, and you guys were just telling us about how you booked the airline, and like we're going to be see what happens. You know, if you have to cancel, you cancel. But it was a step of faith.
It certainly was, yes.
And so the time came.
The time came for us to be able to go, and we had to rent our outfits because we had to dress like in the time of Jesus to be able to participate. So Rosanne calls these people up in, was it Colorado? And they were doing the outfits for the Chosen. And so the lady said, I got the perfect outfit for Phil. And so she made me this outfit out of wool with a little hat that went up over here, and the whole outfit was nothing but wool. And then I had to go buy sandals. And I have never worn sandals in my entire life. I couldn't believe that I had to wear sandals, and without any socks, no nothing, just plain sandals. So we go over there, and then Rosanne, of course, was dressed in silk. She had a blue and brown outfit, and she looked like the Virgin Mary from. So anyway, so we go up over there, and we look real Hebrew. And so we got our outfits, and we got all set and ready to go. And we ended up flying over to Dallas and in June. And oh my God, 98 degrees and 90% humidity up over there. It was extremely hot. And so we go over there, we take a walk down there, and the first thing they did was take our picture inside the thing that says the Chosen, 5,000 five loaves and two fish.
Oh, okay.
So we took our photograph there, and then we go in, and so well, over there before we got there, in the bus they gave us our badges, and our badge had pink, and they went by color. So you were going to be filmed by color. Whoever had that color would have to be able to walk 1.5 miles from where we were in the tents, where the 5,000 were, to the field where they were going to be filming. So I said, wow, that far to walk through all that weeds and rocks and all kinds of things. I said,
And in those sandals.
And in the sandals, and me, we just barely had gotten surgery. I said, well, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And so we go up over there, and we got pink. Our color was pink. And it was, we were going to be shooting from 11 in the morning till 2:30 in the afternoon. So we go up over there, and that was the hottest part of the day. So we had to take umbrellas and our waters and snacks, and we had to get our phones and hide them inside a gunny sack. So they gave me a gunny sack, and then I had this other pouch. The pouch was full of snacks and water, and the pouch was full of all kinds of other things. So I was carrying about probably 70 pounds on me between the pouch I had and the gunny sack I was carrying. And there I was going, walking down there, and Rosanne holding my hand, and we're going to make it. Well, it was so hot and so humid, and walking all up over there. And for me to be able to walk that distance after just gotten surgery and after being paralyzed, I mean, I was like a little kid. So happy to do it, because I said, boy, God really worked a miracle on this. Yes. He gave me my foot back, and He gave me the courage and the well-being to be able to even do what I'm doing. And so we walked all the way up over there, and during the daytime, I mean, when they were filming, we had to hide everything in the gunny sack because they wanted nothing muttering on there. Yeah. And then when they would stop filming, they would yell at us, and we would put our umbrellas up to hide from the sun. And then, but I couldn't hide my feet because they were there, and so I got the biggest sunburn you ever saw on my foot. And so, you know, in everything that we did, the hardships and everything that we did in the filming and everything that we did was so glorious, because we were able to see Jonathan and Dallas up over there, and Jonathan plays Jesus, and in the film, and all the apostles just going around with their baskets, giving everybody fish and passing up the loaves of bread and doing all that thing that Jesus went through in that miracle of 5,000, and to be able to witness that was just something that will leave probably in my brain and Rosanne's brain the rest of our lives, to remember such a wonderful event.
As we were there, both of our mothers have passed away, and you know both of them were devout. I felt their presence. They were so happy that we were doing this. And because of the walk, you know, the 1.5 miles through the dirt and the rocks and all that, the heavy clothes we were wearing, and then sitting there in the hot sun for hours, I really felt it was happening. And so how do you not have that in your soul the rest of your life? It was really something else. Yeah.
So we got through with our first filming, and then we had to walk all the way back to the tents where all the rest of the 5,000 people were at. And we go over there, and it was at noon. I mean, everybody was eating their lunch, and it was like at 2 o'clock, 2:30 after we got up over there. So we got there late, and all the tents inside were filled up with the peoples inside. So there was only tables in the outside in the middle of all the sun. So there we were eating in the middle of all the sun, and then Rosanne says, I need to go to the bathroom. So she goes walking to the bathroom. When she comes back, and there was a firefighter there eating with us, and he said, your wife is in trouble. And I said, what do you mean she's in trouble? And she says, we better take her to the med tent. So we got her and we took her over there to the medic tent. And sure enough, she was getting
Heat stroke. Yeah. Getting a heat stroke.
She was getting a heat stroke, and so they give her lots of water, and they put her in an air-conditioned fan that they were rolling there. And we just laid there, and there was all kinds of people going in there with heat stroke, and some people were really suffering really, really bad. And Rosanne was just laying there, and I said, just rest and rest and rest. And so they came and they told us, well, we think we can take you back to the hotel. And so Rosanne said, we didn't come all this way to go back to the hotel. We're going back to the filming. And so we waited there and everything like that. And I told Rosanne, well, with the heat stroke that you got, and you're already weak, and with my foot, we're going to have trouble walking back over there. So I go over there and I tell Rosanne, look, go over there and tell them we need a ride. So Rosanne goes over there and tells them we need a ride over there because Phil, I tell him I just got surgery. So I went over there to a lady and I lift up my skirt. I never worn a skirt in my life. That was the most incredible thing, being able to lift my pants up. And so I showed him my leg where I just gotten the surgery. So they said, okay, we'll give you a ride. So they brought this four-wheeler, and they had other people sitting in the front seats, and they had this little bench in the back. And they said, you guys will go sitting in the back there. Well, we got this maniac of a driver who got on the steering on it, and went, and there was like an embankment like that to go up on the road, and me and Rosanne are sitting in the back, and so he goes up the road, and the bike goes flying up and comes on back down. Rosanne goes flying up. I grab her and I stuck her back down on the thing, and she was going like a basketball on the way down. And the crazy guy just drove us like we looked like the Flintstones going just down this hill all the way down to the very bottom. And it was a miracle that I didn't lose her on the way, because she was wearing silk and she was flying all over, sliding all over the dang place. It was just, but it's a part of the whole trip that we'll never forget. That we looked like the Jetsons going down the hill. We got over there in a real hurry, and we got some really good seats, a really good area to sit down with everybody down up over there. So that was a really nice
that episode is yet to be seen, right?
Right. They said January.
January, okay.
Yeah. So we filmed from 5:30 to 7 then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that night.
Yeah, all 5,000, because what they were doing were bringing segments of us during the day, but that evening was all 5,000. It was really,
nice.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
And when that was all over, to be able to get back in the bus to go back to the hotel, well, if you can they had it disorganized that night. And they just had the buses coming, and if you can imagine 5,000 people trying to get into a few buses, it took like almost an hour and a half. I don't know how long it took for us to be able to get into the bus, to be able to get back.
But God's children were singing.
Yes.
Other people would have been complaining.
Oh,
people
yes.
were singing.
Instead of complaining, and we didn't hear one complaining thing, everybody was singing, praise the Lord, praise the Lord. It was just so beautiful.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and wow, all of it went to build your faith to a whole new level.
Well,
so
it's an interesting thing, because after all of that we went through, in order to be able to find out what caused my foot to have drop foot, back in '95 I got bitten by a rattlesnake up in Congilon Creek, in the Carson National Forest, and I got bit right up over here on the side, right in the area where they gave me surgery. That's where I got bit. And I had a out-of-body experience for the whole day.
Oh, wow.
Up over there, and I thought back then that I was going to lose my leg too. And so I had that experience back up over there. I was passed out in the middle of nowhere. I was going to go fishing, and I was by myself in the wilderness. So there was nobody with me. And so I ended up going through that whole event up over there, and I would spend the day with my father and with my sister Linda, and
They were both dead.
they were both dead. And so they told me that I could not go with them, that I had to come back because I had a mission here in life that I had to do. And one of them, of course, is my Taos project and the project that I got going with developing jobs in the state of New Mexico, and that I have more work to do here on Earth. So that's what brought me back. And so the doctors figured that probably some of the venom that where I got bit back then stayed in that area in there and caused that scar tissue.
That's what it
on there.
says.
Yeah.
And it brought it back. And I told Rosanne, maybe Jesus knew that this was going to happen, and he was going to bring that drop foot so that I could remember and do my time to help his movie be shown to the whole world as to really what happened
Beautiful, yeah.
back 2,000 years ago.
It's so
So-
good to have you guys with us, and we're just almost out of time, but I wanted to be sure that we mentioned this book that
Oh,
you've
thank
written,
you. Yes.
By the Grace of God. And you've written some other books
Yes.
as well. How can people find those and to be able to?
Well, you can go on Amazon, of course.
Uh-huh.
You can get it there. If you want to communicate with us, though, we'd love to. You know,
Okay.
we speak all over the state, and we come to people's homes
Great.
with the stories. So I don't know if we have anything with our phone number on it, but
Yes, it's on the bottom of the screen.
thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Please reach out to us. We're very happy to come and share stories, both about New Mexico history because of the marker books, but also because of Phil's life.
Yes.
It's called By the Grace of God, Stories from the American Dream
Dreams, yes.
for a reason.
Yes.
Phil has lived the American dream, and he continues to.
Amen. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yes.
What a blessing. And for those of you that are watching right now, if you have not experienced the grace of God, this is an opportunity for you. And you know, the word tells us that no one comes to Yeshua unless the Father draws them. And when he begins to draw you, there's just something that it's irresistible. You have to say yes. And when you say yes, then Yeshua comes and he sits on the throne of your heart, and he begins this love relationship. He's always loved you because in Jeremiah it says, "For I have loved you with an everlasting love, and I've drawn you by my loving kindness." So today, if he's drawing you, please say yes. And as you do, give us a call. We want to make sure you have a Bible, and we've got prayer partners that will pray with you and help you to understand what the next steps in your new journey will be. Congratulations and welcome to the family of God. And as we say goodbye today, I want to just share the Aaronic blessing. And it says, "May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his everlasting peace." Thank you for being with us today. Shalom, shalom.
Your financial support is appreciated. Go to P.O. Box 4338, Albuquerque, New Mexico 87196. Call us today at 505-345-1991.